Hello. Okay, I'll do this on a Saturday instead of a Sunday. Why not? Um, I had spoken about the other brand of the side zip boots in the previous video. You can see that better. And this had become kind of the standard for a while there, replacing some of the other versions of the combat boots. And then, like I had said, the uh, kind of the new modern jungle boot version, which you can see is quite a bit taller in the shaft, more of a traditional. Let's get that a little more even. More of a traditional height. So they had lowered the height a bit, adjusted the width a bit, changed a few things. This one has the Vibram sole, which I had wondered about what the outsole was on these when I'd gotten them resold. These are not resoles, so you can see it's the same sole. The guy just did a slightly different glue job. So if you had watched the previous video, or even if you didn't, to answer your question, so you can see it's not a super aggressive tread, but not a flat tread like the traditional jungle boots, which also changed soles because they originally had more of a standard hiking outsole, and then they went to like a flat, what I call a flat sole here, even though the heel was chunkier. Here, for more desert applications or whatever, they had modified that again. Uh, and I wasn't going to speak at length about this boot in particular either time because it's just not I don't know what brand it is for starters. They're military issue, like real ones. So apart from finding them used, I wouldn't know where to shop for them anyway under brand name. So anyway, so those modifications had existed, and then like I said, the mil-spec turned into Voodoo. Let's see very well, Voodoo. And so they had kind of rebranded this, da 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 da. And you can see here where instead of the other one, it's starting to take more of this kind of articulated shape that, as I mentioned in the logger boots, that I actually like. I think it's a little more comfortable here, or maybe a little easier to get on and off. I don't think the zipper is completely essential. I think the zipper fails a lot. I had already I think I had already owned a pair of these before I got the ones that we're going to discuss as soon as I stopped discussing this stuff at length. But you can see there's still a fair amount of leather. The other ones were suede out, rough out suede down here instead. More to mimic this, which of course was the deviation from the original Jungle Boot also, where this was still leather as opposed to suede. I mean, suede is leather, but you know what I mean. But here you still had nylon, basically an all nylon upper with no real insulation, a little bit of padding here. Here, a little bit more insulation, a bit of padding here. So, like I said, okay, so that's where I was. And I like being able to tuck in my pants, though, is the thing. So this height, I could still tuck in the pants and they would mostly stay in. I like to feel like I'm keeping the snakes and the bugs and some of the dirt and rocks out. So that's kind of just a personal nitpicky thing. Finding the long army pants now with the ties is becoming increasingly difficult, along with finding certain earlier styles of the boots. So I guess we're getting to the point where we're not going to be tucking our pants into our boots much if we're buying combat boots. So anyway, so these came out though And I got them anyway, even though they kind of defied that logic. And you can see quite a bit more padding here. Definitely a lower. Put them back to back. It won't be too bad. Yeah, there we go. A bit lower of a shaft with the taper, but not a lot, but enough, kind of, where if I'm totally flat, the pants aren't going to stay in tucked as much as they would with this, obviously, with either of these. So you can kind of tuck them in and whatnot, but not quite as much as you might like because the angle here. But you do have now even more of this articulation, which I was going on and on and on about how I like this, because I do. Here, more reinforcement for the toe, which I don't typically need while I'm hiking, but for other applications, longevity and whatnot. Kind of a smooth leather, not quite the rough out. A bit of nylon still in the, I don't know, alternate zones or whatever you want to call it. A little bit of, breathing, venting, and another Vibram outsole, but with a slightly different tread. Not super aggressive again, but decent. I don't know if this model is still on the market. I'm showing it as kind of an example. I did start to get a little bit of damage here from what I think was just poorly sewn. I don't think I actually gouged it or anything. I think this just started coming unraveled. So that was something I didn't like. So I actually kind of retired these early to keep wearing the soles out of these. As I showed in the previous video, I can grind through this outsole pretty quickly. This one seemed to be holding up fairly well before I decided, well, I like the hiking boot look of them a little bit, maybe more for summer. I won't use them always as my go-to boot. Always, that way I'll still have them in the future. And now I don't hike as much as I was at the time, so I feel kind of dumb because maybe I should have just enjoyed them and not worried about it. But here they are. Right out the gate. Well, this tag's worn off. So what size is this? 6.5. So again, we're back to that. What do they really run? They run big because this should still fit me, and they call it a 6.5. What another shoe company like Converse or LL Bean might call a 7, I assume. I don't remember having my toes feeling terribly constricted, and you can see the length is actually a bit longer than what this calls a 6 that still fits me, that I call this a 7. So maybe this is even really a 7.5, and they're not super big on. I mean, once you roll the toes, you can see it's not super that much bigger. So they run big, definitely, for sure. And this is obviously not the only. This is Bates. I kept thinking these were Danner, but they're Bates. So I keep wanting to mislabel them or misname. So, and then an extra heel cap here for even more durability, extra layers of all this, but no really dedicated pull tab, kind of an attempt at a pull tab. I don't know that you need that. I've never used it, I don't think. And again, where the rubber has probably gone slightly discolored from the original color from sitting in the box for a couple extra years. But this, but yeah, overall, apart from that, the other shoe, apart from this issue, like I said, I didn't have any overt problems with these. So I don't know what else to say. This is Vibram there too. Other than just an option, I guess.